All right, Dillian the Dope Fiend doing dope. Eddie Hearn wants Dillian the Dope Fiend doing dope to be reinstated as the mandatory for Deontay Wilder because he was cleared by UCAD for his D-ball. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. Also, if you're in the LDBC, hit that join button so you can help what we're doing to support the cause. We're sponsoring young professional fighters with their equipment, things that they need to do in order to get into the ring. Very expensive sport for professional fighters that do not have a lot of backing. Also, and that's what doing that will help us continue to support people. We sponsored our first boxer just this month. So thank you guys for everything you do. Also, I want to say a special thank you to everybody on the Patreon. We got that video coming up today. It was running a little bit behind, but it'll be up there today. Also, thank you so much to everybody in the live stream that supports with the super chats and the Cash App. Support the cause there. Make sure you come to the live streams Monday through Friday right around 11:15 a.m. Central Standard Time and OG Boxing Talk at 8 a.m. on Sunday. Let's get to it. All right, man, Dillian Whyte got into the ring with Oscar Rivas in order to win the title eliminator to be the #1 challenger for Deontay Wilder. Afterwards, Thomas Hauser, a boxing journalist, exposed the fact that he had tested positive for D-ball, and despite the fact that he had D-ball in his system, he was allowed to fight. Also, Dillian Whyte, according to Team Rivas, got into the ring with gloves that had not been approved during the glove meeting. The glove meeting, or somebody I'm sure can give me the official name for that, is where the fighters pick, they show their gloves to each other. Those gloves are inspected to make sure there's nothing funny, nothing dirty about it, and they approve it, and then the fight is on. Dillian Whyte had 2 pairs of gloves approved. It said after the fact he didn't want to fight neither one of those, came with some gloves that had not been approved by his opponent, and got into the ring and fought with that. So he fought under the influence of D-ball, where D-ball was in his system, and with these dirty gloves. So the WBC provisionally suspends him until the questions are answered by UCAD or the BBOC or some combination of the two of them to see what it was and exactly happened, and all that stuff gets cleared up before he puts him back in the mandatory. And regardless, the WBC said that mandatory will not happen until at least 2021. So I think the WBC got a little smart and was like, nah, y'all about to come out with some nonsense, so you're gonna wait another year anyway. We're not holding up waiting for you. They got a Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury fight and maybe 2 Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury fights. That's what's gonna happen, right? So regardless, Eddie Hearn, now that UCAD came out and said we excuse Dillian Whyte, we accept his explanation. We believe that the levels of D-ball in his system were consistent with contamination, right? Consistent with contamination. So we're just gonna let it go. He's good to go. Did it the day before the Dillian Whyte versus Morris Watch fight. So now Hearn wants him reinstated. This is my thought. I'm split. One, I want to see him reinstated so that Deontay Wilder can absolutely decapitate that dude. He's overrated. Big time overrated. He's not that good a fighter. So the fact that anybody would ever believe that Deontay Wilder was ducking him, man, come on, man. That guy's not that good. He's perfectly made for Deontay Wilder to knock into Kingdom Come. But you know, hey man, people want to act as if they don't see, like their eyes can't see. Regardless, that's my thought number one. That's the only reason why I would say that Dillian Whyte needs to be reinstated as a mandatory. I personally think that the WBC should suspend him for a couple years because there was no B sample. There's no conclusion to this. What the UCAD did was they accepted, all they did is reaffirm their original decision. That's all they did. Originally, what they said was we had a panel of experts that met with Dillian Whyte. They gave us explanation of why it was in the system. We accepted their explanation. What they did when they reaffirmed their original decision, and you know it was their original decision because Dillian Whyte was allowed to fight, was that they said we accept his explanation. That should not be acceptable. That should not be acceptable. The fact that they believe that it is consistent with contamination, how does that relate to whether is his B sample consistent with contamination too? What about the B sample? What about this? Isn't that how it's supposed to work? You take two samples, so if one is contaminated, that the other one, if it's positive for both of them, then boom, you're suspended because both samples are contaminated. And what does contaminated mean? How do you contaminate yourself with something that can only be taken orally? It can't be absorbed through meat. At least my understanding of it is that it can't be. But there was no B sample. And there's the glove issue. This just reeks. It just reeks of this is what the circumstance looks like to me. Looks like to me. Dillian Whyte popped dirty for D-ball because he was microdosing. This is what it looks like to me. There's something called microdosing. Microdosing is where you take and D-ball has a very short half-life. I think something around 4 or 5 hours. So what that means is every 4 or 5 hours, you take a certain amount of D-ball. Then every 4 to 5 hours, the amount in your system, the detectable amount in your system is cut in half. So if it gets cut in half after 5 hours and you only took a little bit, within 5 hours, you could actually be below the detectable amounts before, it can no longer be detectable in your system. Within 4 or 5 hours, depending on how much you took the first time. So if you wind up just having a little bit in there, all that might mean is that your cycle was off. It can mean that you basically, instead of, you thought it was going to take 5 hours, it'll be out of your system in 5 hours, then it took 5 hours and 15 minutes to get out of your system. And at 5 hours, they took the sample. So your cycle was just a little bit off. So there was a very, very little amount still left because it had not quite gotten out of your system. And it has at that level, but they're saying that level is consistent with contamination. Okay, sure, that system could be consistent with contamination, but could also be consistent with microdosing. Is that the only thing that it can be consistent with? Is that the only way that you can have that amount of money, that amount of D-ball in your system? Is that it was contaminated? I don't think so. There's more than one reason you could have a small amount in your system. One is it got contaminated. I was drinking some coffee, somebody just spitefully or accidentally some D-ball sprinkled on my coffee. Ooh, there was some D-ball on the rim of my coffee cup. Or I could be like, hey man, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. I know perfectly well they ain't gonna be here till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Boop, let me take my D-ball, work out. By the time I get done, it's gonna be out of my system. Oh, they didn't show up at 1, they showed up at 12:30. Oh shit, I don't know, it should be, is it in? Is it done? Is it all the way out? Boop. You didn't. They came a little too early. It wasn't quite in your system. So now you have minute traces there. But if you would have waited an hour later, it would have been out of his system. I'm not buying it, dude. That is not a clear explanation. If his B sample had come up negative, then we would have known that there was something wrong with the test. But the fact that these guys are now doing, that's what I'm saying, this shit is just it's like a slippery slope. With Computerall, they raise the detectable levels the allowable levels of Computerol in your system, right? Now, these guys will say, well, it's just a little bit of D-ball in their system. It could have just been contaminated. You are literally accepting these nonsense excuses that cheaters can now take advantage of. So even if there was some chance that Dillian Whyte didn't, you know, like I said, somebody came by, sprinkled some D-ball on his cup, and he took a sip, and it was just contaminated, right? Even though they say in the rules, you're responsible for what's in your body. We don't want to hear any excuses, unless we want to hear the excuse. Nah, man, if Dillian Whyte is the mandatory, cool. But, well, I guess the better scenario is this, man, nah, don't let him be the mandatory. But please, Deontay Wilder, fight him. Please, Deontay Wilder, fight him and knock his head in a complete circle. That would be the best scenario. Get rid of the mandatory, but have them fight next week. Make sure you're clean, though, Dillian. Make sure you're clean. You two-time cheater. And that's the thing that gets me. This is a second time. It's not the first, it's the second time. For the second substance. These guys have no shame with these PEDs. Anyway, it is what it is. Let me know what you think in the comment section. With that, I'm out. Peace.